Boxing King Media in association with BRAWL. We're not in London, we are in Poland indeed. With me, the legend himself, Steve Bunce. Steve, great to see you here in Poland. You must be quite hot in that blazer.
Yeah, it's a linen blazer, I keep telling people, but I'm sweating heavy, but that's okay. You know, I knew the sun was out. I'd walked out this morning, and I knew this was likely to be outdoors, but I still wore the jacket, and I don't know. Well, USYK thought it was funny, so I suppose I got a laugh out of the champ, so hey ho.
Steve, is it fair to say, sign of modern day greatness when someone like USYK had the opportunity to potentially avoid Dubois and go and take a different route? A lot of money's been thrown around in boxing, but he decided, no, I am going to take care of my mandatory.
You know, he could have fought someone from MMA, of course. I think it was a bold move. You know, listen, that's not to say I think Dubois will win. I can make a case for Dubois winning it, but it was a bold move. No matter which way you look at it, taking this fight was a bold move, and it's a move he didn't have to take. They could have found someone else. They were going to sell whatever it is, 40,000 seats in that arena. I think it's 38 or maybe it's 48. I don't know. They were going to sell those tickets, those seats anyway. And the reason they were going to sell them is, I don't know if you know this, but 1 in 3 people in this city is a Ukrainian. Not from the war, they're just naturally Ukrainian. They've been living here, some of them for 3 or 4 decades. They've been here forever and ever. So they were never going to struggle with that. Plus 10,000 of the tickets were the equivalent of €11, so less than a tenner. 10,000 tickets at a tenner. I can't even remember when there was a fight in the UK that it was a tenner. Even amateur shows were 15 quid. I mean, a tenner to come outside and see a national hero defend his title. It's unbelievable. And what the point I'm trying to make is they didn't need Daniel Dubois in the opposite corner to sell this arena out. They didn't need Daniel Dubois in the opposite corner to silence any critics. It's as simple as that. And Usyk's lawyer pointed something out to me. He said, Daniel Dubois is the only person that can beat Usyk. And I looked at him and went, no, because he's the only person who's brave enough to get in the ring. You know what? That's not a bad line.
Steve, everybody says that we should look at how Derek Chisora fought Usyk. That's a slight blueprint. But we then heard comments from Usyk earlier this week where he said, hang on a second, I was actually trying to entice Joshua in and I wasn't really at full force. I'm paraphrasing it, by the way.
I kind of half believe that. There's probably a little bit of truth in it, but it's not. I mean, there's no way they were in camp and they decided, let's do a strategy where we let Derek push us around the ring for 4 rounds and then we have to track him down over the last 8. That didn't happen. You know, whether or not he was a little bit circumspect, a little bit cautious in the ring, that's possible. But I was there that night and he was being pushed and rushed. He was, listen, under those circumstances, the Del Boy would win. That was a great David Haye trick, one of David Haye's greatest magic tricks, which he's openly talked about, where David, he must have done 10 kilometres walking that night. He just walked around the ring inside, I think it was Wembley. It was completely empty. It was a COVID fight. And he convinced everybody, Eddie Hearn, Tony Bellew, Darren Barker, he convinced them all. And the reason why I know that is I was doing 5 Live that night and they all came to our hut. Because we did it in a little hut. It was really bizarre. So inside Wembley in a hut, more safety reasons. And they all came to see us one by one. And they came in saying, are you okay? Then they said, like Tony Bellew would go, how did you have it? Darren Barker, how did you have it? Eddie Hearn. Before we did the interview, pushed down the mic, he went, how'd you have that fight? So we went, Usyk by about 7 or 8 rounds. He went, I think it was close. And they all apologised the next morning, they didn't remember. Because they put on their Twitter, bad decision, because David had conned all of them. It was brilliant. And Haye, you can call Haye now. He'll tell you, he conned a lot of them. That's David Haye's sense of humour. I thought it worked a treat. Usyk won the fight comfortably. So all of that, you know, he made it close. No, David Haye made it close. People believed it for 20 minutes. By the next morning, everyone looked at it again and going, David Caldwell was the other one going, oh no, what have I done? It's a 9-3
fight. Steve, I mean, I just spoke to Alex Krasik and I said, look, next in line is Hrgović. He goes, we don't want Hrgović. Let's Tyson Fury. And he said some words I won't repeat about Tyson Fury. Get rid of this fight that he's having in October. We want the undisputed next for the sake of boxing. Does that have to happen next?
I'm not even sure what has to happen in boxing anymore. I'd like to see it happen. You know, we've waited best part of 3 years really since mid-June, 10th of June 2020 for Fury against AJ and for Fury against Usyk a year later. And does it have to happen? I mean, we've survived 2.5, 3 years without a couple of fights that were essential to happen not happening, so we'll probably survive. I mean, would I like to see it? Yeah, but does it have to happen? I don't think it does, and I really mean that, because we're gonna, Javonta Davis will fight someone, Shakir Stevenson will fight someone, Crawford will fight someone, Canelo will fight someone else, AJ will come back against someone, Usyk will come back against someone. That's just me talking about 8 or 9 massive fights to take up. In the middle of that, Sonny Edwards will do his business, Josh Taylor will come back, Chantel Cameron and Katie Taylor will do business. Boy, oh boy, we've got a full schedule anyway. And it's not like I'm being stopped on tubes or buses and people saying to me, "Oh, Bunce, that fight's got to happen." That was a couple of years ago, and maybe last year, but it's happening less and less. I'm getting stopped now saying, "What's Fury doing fighting Ngannou?" That type of thing. I'm getting stopped with people saying, "Bunce, Dubois got no chance." And I say, well, at least he's having a go for it. But people aren't stopping me anymore and going, "Oh, that fight's got to happen." Now, of course I want to see it happen. I'm not being negative, but no, I think boxing survives and rocks very well without that fight happening. I'm sad to say.
Eddie said after the post-fight press conference after Anthony Joshua's victory over Helenius that we want the Wilder fight next. Wilder wants that fight next, and it comes down to the Saudis. Now, there are a few whispers going around at the moment that fight might not just happen next. I'm not sure why. There might be some complexities in the background. However, is Saudi ruining this? Because now we're turning around. We're using the motion that we're waiting for Saudi to make us the offer. Why are we relying so heavily on Saudi?
Well, the answer to that is I don't really know, because it's not like the Saudi money has saved boxing over the last 3 or 4 years. It gave us the money to have the Joshua rematch with Ruiz, which would have been massive anywhere it had gone. Let's get that right. It gave us the money for the Usyk Joshua 2 last year, which would have been massive in the UK. They would have still made an awful lot of money, maybe not as much as they made. And it gave us the money for Fury against Jake Paul. And it's meant to be giving us the money. Do you remember when it was nailed down in November, there was going to be this 4-way tournament and they were splitting 400 million? People were flown out to Saudi. They literally sold their grandmothers because they believed in it. It wasn't going to happen, and it didn't happen. And will we see Wilder and AJ? I know Wilder's fearless. I know AJ's fearless. Seems to be enough money. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. Could we go outdoors in London in May and get 80,000? Absolutely we could. Let's get that right. Wilder is an attraction. The Brits like Wilder. They've seen enough of him when he's been in the UK, and they've watched great fights with him. So, yeah, that could happen, yeah. So the Saudi money isn't ruining boxing and isn't saving boxing. It's just another source of promotions. Remember that period we went to Macau for a few fights? Pacquiao was there and Zhu Shiming was there, and then then Macau went silent. It happened,
Just final one. I'm not sure if you saw, I'm not sure if I saw you there yesterday at the KSI press conference.
Making my way here. Making my way here, sadly.
I'm sure you saw the clips. Your thoughts?
I thought Logan Paul was out of order throwing that cake at that nice man who's been showing all those pictures of his girlfriend. I thought John Fury did what John Fury did. I thought it was what it was. It was fun. I can't get angry about it. And I'm a fan of these fights. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I think Fury against KSI is an intriguing fight, because who else is Tommy Fury going to fight? He's ranked very boldly at about 18 in the UK, with about 30 fighters below him and 18 in front of him. And there's no guarantee he'd beat any of those 18. And if he was fighting them, what can Frank Warren give him for an 8-round English title eliminator? He's going to fight KSI. He's going to make an absolute fortune, and he should win, just like he won against Jake Paul. I don't see. I'm one of those guys. I've never had a problem with these crossover fights. I was big on Logan Paul and KSI. I was out there for a week with 5 Live. I had no problem with it. And John Fury tipping over tables. One thing I will say is that when Derek Chisora threw tables, that was a planted table. Nothing was on it and it weighed nothing. What John did the other day, that wasn't planned. You saw Tommy jump out of his white shirt, his white vest. Everyone was scared. Joe Makovsky from DAZN couldn't get out of the situation quick enough. That was big John. That was big raging John Fury, raging and having a great time. It doesn't hurt boxing. Of course it doesn't hurt boxing. We've done all that before. Plus, you can't. If over here you don't accept them and it's not boxing, how can it hurt boxing? If you embrace them, it's different. If it was under the border control rules, then John's going to get fined 10 grand. The promoter's 10 grand. Something like that.
Steve, appreciate your time as always. Let's look forward to the press conference tomorrow, Wayne, on Friday. I'm sure we'll catch up before the end of the week.
That'd be great fun.
Steve Bunce for Boxing King Media, thank you very much.